welcome back to highlights of La Vuelta, right here on GCN Racing. Today was stage 12. On stage 11, we had a surprise winner, Mikel Iturria, a rider from the Basque Country, taking his first pro win in the Basque Country on an all-bear bike. It was the dream scenario for all involved. There was no change on the GC. The main group rolled in close to 20 minutes down. Primož Roglič safely in there and conserving his red jersey for a second day. Today could also be one for a breakaway. 171.4 kilometres from the Circuito de Navarra motor racing circuit to Bilbao. 4 third category climbs, 3 of which come in the final quarter of the stage, and the last one, the Alta de Arias, is a wall with gradients of up to 20% on its 2.4 kilometre ramps on very narrow roads. It took over 100 kilometres of frantic racing and attacking for a breakaway to eventually go today. Basically, there were lots of fresh legs in the peloton. We've had a rest day, followed by a time trial, followed by a day in which anybody that rode in the bunch wouldn't have had to push particularly hard. Now, it's a part of the sport you don't always have the privilege of watching, but today it went on for so long we got to watch it unfold once the television pictures started. By the time it did go properly, there were only just over 60 k's to go. It was started by this man, Willie Smith, the South African from Katusha Alpecin, and he was eventually joined by 18 others. They included the likes of Philippe Gilbert, Nikias Arndt, John Degenkolb, Heinrich Hausler, Valerio Conti, Felix Großschartner, Tosh van der Sande, and then the best placed on GC, JJ Rojas of Movistar, who started the day 50 minutes down on Roglič. With no threat up the road, Jumbo-Visma could afford to sit up and allow the gap to grow rapidly. However, it wouldn't be long before the bunch had to start racing towards the final climbs of the day. And here's the breakaway on the first of those. John Degenkolb already in difficulty as the pace was pushed on the front by Mercato of UAE Team Emirates. The narrow roads and steep gradients here, basically a sign of things to come for the riders in the Basque Country. These are some of the hardest roads in the world to race on. Jumbo-Visma had started to up the pace a little behind, primarily to keep their leader Roglič safe and sound. There'd be no need for him to attack today, but he would need to keep an eye on his rivals. The downhills too can prove difficult in this part of the world. Here's Smith coming very close to getting it wrong on a steep right-hander. This is Jonathan Lastra on the attack again. You'll remember he finished in second place on yesterday's stage. That clearly hadn't taken too much out of him. He was trying to do to everyone else what Iturria had done to him yesterday. Behind those, Gilbert was already starting to test his own legs and those of the others within the group. A few kilometres later, and Felix Großschartner had attacked from Bora Hansgrohe and got himself a decent advantage. He would eventually be joined by Mitchelton Scott Scarborough-Grumet, the duo 41 seconds ahead of the group behind and starting to look a very dangerous threat indeed. That gap remained the same as they crested the penultimate climb of the day, which was the Alto El Vivero. The bunch would cross that very same point, still almost 4 minutes back and led by Robert Gesink of Jumbo-Visma. And so all eyes were now on the final climb of the day, and by the time we got to it, some sterling work from de Klerk of de Koning and Mercato of UAE meant that the leading duo were all but caught. We did have one last-ditch effort from Grumet, but it was soon day over for the both of them. Cue Philippe Gilbert. Now, he might be 37 years old, but he doesn't appear to have lost much of the sparkle from his legs. Check out this for an attack. Out of the saddle sprinting on some very steep gradients, the only rider able to go with him, Barcelo of Escali Basque Country Murias. Albeit briefly. Another searing acceleration from the Belgian was enough to crack Barcelo, Gilbert reminding us all that there aren't many better than him on this sort of terrain. When Smith was caught by the GC group, it was already down to around 20 riders. George Bennett, the last rider riding in support of Roglič. Here you can see that Aaron Buru, who's just caught up with Barcelo, but the gap up to Gilbert is already at 21 seconds. And that would be the exact same gap that he'd had when he gets to the top of the climb. And with it almost entirely downhill from that point to the finish in Bilbao, the stage result looked all but certain. The main favourites behind are here looking at each other, none of them looking particularly sure whether they should attack or save it all for tomorrow. Aaron Buru and Barcelo did a sterling job on the descent though, slowly but surely creeping close to Gilbert, second by second. With 6 k's to go, it ticked down to 16 seconds. 3 kilometres later, and it was down to 12. This stage was far from over. Coming in towards the finish, and they had him in their sights. Gilbert nervously looking over his shoulder to check the gap, which was down to 5 seconds by this point. But whilst they had him in their sights, Gilbert now had the finish line in sight, and this was not one that he was going to let slip away. Another few powerful pedal strokes and another glance over his shoulder, and the duo behind realised that they were beaten, no longer chasing, but fighting for second place. It was another lesson in racing and basically power from Gilbert, pure class from the Belgian. In the final 100 metres he even had time to sit up and take in the applause from the enthusiastic Basque crowd, taking his 6th stage win at the Vuelta a España and his 10th at a Grand Tour. And who'd bet against him taking another rainbow jersey in Yorkshire in just a few weeks' time? I certainly wouldn't. Chapeau 2 to Tim Leclerc, who once again rode his heart out for one of his teammates today. GC riders all rolled in together, just over 3 minutes down on Gilbert. Let's take a look at the top 10 on the stage then. It was Aaron Buru who had to settle 2nd place again, Barcelo in 3rd, JJ Rojas 4th again at 22 seconds. There's no change in the general classification. Primož Roglic still with that 1 minute and 52 second advantage over Alejandro Valverde. 2 minutes and 11 is the gap back to Lopez. Quintana still at 3 minutes. Tomorrow we've got some even harder climbs. It's a 166km route from Bilbao to Los Machucos, home with the Rampas Inhumanas. There are a total of 7 categorised climbs, but really it's all about the last one. It might only be 6.8km long, but it's been given Especial status courtesy of its incredibly steep gradients, up to 25%. My prediction, Miguel Angel Lopez. See you tomorrow.